once you get into it, there's an aha moment of didn't realize I could do that and couldn't do that before.
Welcome to the EverTrue Innovators podcast, where we meet the innovative voices behind the ideas moving fundraising forward. Welcome and bienvenue, and welcome to the Innovators podcast by EverTrue. I'm Keith Maneri, joined by my co-hosts Hannah Davis and Madeline Turner. This next one feels like a true everything working together story.
Yeah, multiple tools, multiple channels,
but one really cohesive strategy.
Exactly. And the Citadel Foundation used that approach to connect with donors,
which adds a whole other layer to engagement.
Let's hear from the Citadel Foundation winners of the Full Suite Power User Award.
My name is Rob Stevenson. I am the Associate Vice President for Development at the Foundation, primarily focusing on major gifts. And the mission of the Citadel Foundation is to secure, manage, and steward philanthropic support for the Citadel Military College of South Carolina, with roughly 2,400 cadets each year, with also graduate programs and day students as well as veteran programs.
So my name is Caroline Smoke. I'm Director of Annual Giving. Been at the foundation for I think about 8 years now. And like Rob said, kind of our main focus and function is to support student life on campus. And we have a very unique donor base. We are a military college, but only about 30% of our students actually are cadets commissioned into the military. So we still do have a large portion of our alumni who are kind of in regular, world, business world. And then we also have populations of veteran students and populations of graduate students.
And I'm Revere Moody. I have been here for almost 11 years. I'm the Director of Donor Relations, and working with our alumni being so unique and finding ways to bring them back into the fold has been a challenge overall. But we think, with having EverTrue and the different products with that, that's been very helpful with us finding some new people and then re-engaging a lot of our alumni and keeping them engaged as well.
Thank you. Thanks for being here with us.
And congratulations.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. We're excited.
So also, first of all, the tenure just between two of y'all is almost 20 years. So that's awesome.
You're like 18?
I'm in my 19th year here.
This is so you could also probably receive an award for like longest tenure at an organization. That's incredible.
Well, it is something, or that's something unique about our organization. We really do a good job with keeping people here. I think the foundation itself is a great place to work. We all really believe in the mission of the Citadel, and to see the young men and women that enter here as freshmen or as knobs and then graduate. But, they say what the road less traveled, but just to see the transformation in the kids and the opportunities that we're able to provide through scholarship support, facility support, just the transformation they have from when they arrive here to when they leave. So the team itself, I really think, is committed to it and just enjoys the mission. And that's why we stay here.
And one thing that really works, with our team having the tenure that it does is we've all held the different positions. So Rob has been in annual giving. I was in annual giving before my position. Caroline was in annual giving. Then she and I went over to class reunion campaigns, and then back to annual giving. And then I moved over to donor relations, and Rob has gone, annual giving to major gifts to leading all the major gift officers. So we have that going for us where we can talk about what we've done in the past, what's worked, what's not, but then we can build off of it and we understand what the other one's doing. And so when you talk about major gifts, stewardship, donor relations, and annual giving all working together, it's helpful that we've all held those positions because we can come together and have those conversations.
While we're on this topic, I think many teams that are operating with annual giving, stewardship, major gifts running as separate efforts, what would you all say to a team that wants to create a more connected donor experience but isn't sure where to begin or how to get internal buy-in, and how important is y'all's cross-functional collaboration in making that happen?
For annual giving, I've had people on our staff, and I know just in general, sometimes board members or whatnot will say, well, we're spending this much in annual giving and we're, getting this much in. So why don't we just cut annual giving and just hire a major gift officer and, and go for it. We'll raise this much money. And I think it's really about understanding, making sure people understand what it is you do and why it's important. And I think, one example is the data team. We rely heavily on the data team. And I think for a while it was hard for them to understand what the end result of the data that they were pulling for us, right? So they look at it, I send them a request for something or ask them to help me find something, and they're looking at the numbers in the database, but they didn't understand what I was going to do with the data. So once I kind of backed up and said, okay, here's where I'm trying to get to and why I'm doing this. I'm trying to find people to upgrade because that'll increase retention rates, because if they give, this amount, then they're more likely to give again. Or, if I kind of help them understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and then what I'm doing with it, then they kind of understand and have a bigger picture. And I do think it helps them on their side too, because they could say, oh, well, we should probably pull it this way, and that'll probably be more helpful. And then it feels like that team effort to get to the end result. So I think that kind of the way you talk about it and collaborate instead of just, asking for a request for something or something like that. And I will say too, I think with the EverTrue product, it has helped us because a lot of us are looking at the data in the same way. I feel like, don't want to use the word dumb it down, but it's kind of made it more,
it's easier to understand.
Yeah, easier to understand for each department. And it's put it in a cohesive, succinct way where we're all kind of speaking the same language a little bit more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I have seen EverTrue help us with in that kind of barrier.
I think too, from annual giving and then from stewardship, we're able to identify people and talk to them and then lead them to the major gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that our major gift officers are school-based. So Caroline's team, or I can talk to someone and we can say, okay, they're better suited for a major gift, but let's steward them a little bit more, because donor relations is part of the whole cycle of a donor. It's not just at the end after they make a gift. It's how you're getting them in the door, but we have to work with annual giving to get there. And so meeting with major gifts, and we have meetings once a month that all the gift officers and annual giving and then stewardship will get together and we discuss different things going on, whether it's prospects, areas that Caroline's team is covering or our class reunion campaign team is covering, or things that the donor relations team have going on. So we keep each other in the loop. So everyone's aware of what's happening, and then we can depend on each other when we have questions or need to send someone down that pipeline and around towards that.
Yeah, no, and I would say too, being a smaller institution with a fairly small solicitable alumni base, we all have to be pretty nimble in how we work with our donors, especially being donor centered. Because at really any point in the year, someone's going to be probably either in a class campaign or some type of annual campaign, because we have class chairmen that are constantly sending appeals or annual appeals, but they're also going to be maybe in the major gift cycle. So you could have folks that are receiving annual letters from class chairman. They could also be in a reunion that's a fundraising campaign, but also have a major gift focus for a school. So we all have to communicate and work closely together so that we're not tripping up on each other and confusing the donors. In many cases, my team does annual giving work because they're working with deans to try to figure out priorities that may be better suited for an annual campaign versus a major gift campaign. So there's got to be open communication with each of us.
Mm-hmm.
We come across the same prospects when we're traveling as that's going to be in a reunion. So my team will work with the reunion gift officers to say they're going to be in a city, there's folks in a campaign, can we go see them for you, to try to lessen maybe some of the travel burden on the team. Let's kill two birds with one stone. And then just communicating too is, what's the best structure for those campaigns? Is it one big class goal, or is it individual major gift goals that create a dollar goal? So the lines of communication, excuse me, the lines of communication here are really vital for our success and to avoid donor fatigue. And EverTrue really, the platform, the app especially has helped those of us on the road.
And when we started looking at it, it wasn't just Rob and his team looking at platforms to choose from. It wasn't just Caroline and her team. We put together a task force that included people from research, our database manager, stewardship, annual giving, major gifts. I think there were 5 or 6 of us in there that would all use it, but use it different ways because it was so important that we're all on the same what am I trying to
Same
say?
page,
Same page, same team as we go forward. And for those that are trying to get there, it's just to find the key stakeholders from each of those teams and get together and put together that plan that, okay, this is how we have to present it to our leadership to help them understand. So give great examples, concrete examples of John Doe was this donor and he came into the fold from an annual giving campaign, but then he came to this event. So he was able to talk to a major gift officer. And because of that, we were able to loop it in that he gave to this certain appeal and was stewarded for that, which led to this major gift conversation, which led to a larger gift. But if you have those concrete examples and you can take it to leadership, then they'll start to understand the importance of the teamwork and the collaboration.
To your point about the forming the group of people to evaluate technology, I want to go back to the catalyst for a tech evaluation to begin with, which I know that you all were working to turn a $50 million stretch goal into something sustainable year after year. What made you realize that your existing tech stack or research processes or ways of working weren't enough to support that next level of growth? And what were you looking for instead?
You know, when you're operating and you feel like you're doing a good job, you sit there and you're like, I know we have holes. I'm not sure where they are, but I don't have time for that now because I have to get this appeal out or I have to go see these donors, right? And so we all kind of knew and had been talking and trying to figure out where to go. And to be honest, I think we had a little bit of a nudge from our board. And so that's, I think, what kind of started us talking. But I think as we got this task force together, we realized there's so much more. Like, there's AI, but there's also, processes and there's research pieces and all these components that may not technically be AI, but this is kind of more the direction we want to go. So I think we kind of started and sat down to say, what is our end goal? What are we trying to accomplish? Let's talk through what is stewardship struggling with? Where are they, bottlenecked? Major gifts, what are we struggling with? People are having trouble getting their meetings in on time. Well, how, what technology might be able to help us solve that problem? And then, in annual giving, how can I have a bigger view of our donor base so that I can segment a little bit better? How can I play with different segmentation styles as opposed to having to, go through research or go through somebody else? So we kind of sat down and just put out all our pain points to try to see what is it that we were going to accomplish. And then we just went to go see what's out there. We talked to a lot of different companies to see what products they had. And then we would look and see, okay, how many problems would this solve? Would this, and then, is this going to work for all of us or some of us? And if it's some of us, is it worth that? Or, that kind of thing. But again, it's that cohesion. We wanted to make sure that whatever we invested in was going to help us solve all of the different problems that we had.
And ideally all in one platform.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing,
That's a good point,
we
yeah.
run into it, and we know with other colleges that we've spoken to, we piecemeal a lot because there's not really anything that's
one size fits all.
Yes. And so what can we find that really could help all of us achieve our goals and continue that collaboration that we always want and continue to strive for?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the catalyst really was our board chairman going with our CEO and our chief operating officer to an AGB conference and sitting in on a session that I came to find out was actually with you guys, a client of yours, but we didn't know it at the time. He just came back and said, we've got to use AI. Y'all figure it out. At the time, AI was a new buzzword. We really didn't know what that meant. So as we looked at these companies, it really grew in our understanding of there's so many different ways, and it's more than just AI. we started figuring out, oh, we can apply it to stewardship. We can apply it to annual giving, major giving, research. So we didn't know what we didn't know. And AI is changing so quickly. And I don't think there's really one all-encompassing program that's AI. And so there were components to EverTrue that had AI, but it did so much more, like they've said. And we were able to apply that in one package to cover so many needs that we really weren't even aware of at the time. But through that process of the three of us and a few others saying, oh, wow, this can help with trip planning. And it's really more automation versus AI, or, efficiencies is probably what we really came to.
We've talked a lot about the internal collaboration, the internal work to bring these tools together. And I think a really compelling part of your story is how you have combined so many of these channels and tools at different moments. From the donor journey standpoint of it, how do you go about building that journey that feels cohesive and intentional rather than kind of disconnected tasks or thank yous, both on the collaboration side of things, but then also the execution and kind of thinking more externally of how everything will be received?
For us, Caroline and I really took a look at the new donor and reactivated donor programs that didn't really exist. We had an idea, we had things we wanted to do, but we weren't able to execute them because we just don't have the manpower to do it the way we wanted to. So being able to bring EverTrue in, have the cadences to help us, and then have Pledgemine and ThankView as part of our package that we now with new donors and reactivated, they get a postcard straight from Pledgemine within a week of them making their first gift. And that list is also sent to our research team. So they get to tag and see, and they'll tag major gift officers or our DXO to say, reach out to them. They just gave their first gift, but they're a great prospect. But they probably wouldn't have been on a radar at all until until the new donor program came through. And then we can put them into the cadence for the gift officers to do what they need to. And then we follow that. They get a thank you video as well to say, here's your impact. That's about 8 months after their first gift. And then they get an anniversary video through ThankView saying, congratulations, you gave your first gift last year. And if they've made a gift since, they get a thank you. If they haven't, then they get an ask on top of that. But again, we are monitoring all that to see where someone may fall with their giving. So if they've given again, then and it's to athletics, then let's send them to athletics for them to focus on. And they stay within our little 1 year new donor reactivated program, but then they can also be contacted and cultivated during that period as well.
That's kind of the fun part, to be able to track those donors because you can see the cadences in Signal. So if I go in and I've had a one-off conversation and they've been in her stewardship cadence, but I feel like they need to go another track, then I know I can pull them out of her cadence, but I'm aware that they've been there, and I can say, okay, I'm pulling them in a disc cadence. You can kind of track them a little bit in Signal a little bit easier and know what they're doing and where they're going and what the communication has been or what it's planning to be too. Because if they're in her cadence, I know what they're about to get. So I'm like, maybe now's not the right time. I'm going to wait till that postcard goes out, and I know it's going to go because it's automated and we're good. So it just seems like it's really helpful to smooth that process.
Another fun one for us has been events. So we started using ThankView as in asking people to join us, inviting them to the President's Suite for our football games. And that actually allowed us to have a much higher open rate. They were delivered, even our older guys that really don't know how to use computers that well were opening them and enjoying them and felt special getting this personalized invitation from the president of our college, who's a 4-star general. And then they were accepting and they were coming. And then we could follow with them. Once they came, we could check them off, that they were there, and then we can follow up through Signal and everything of they were there, and the gift officers can know and then put their notes in if they talk to them at the game and continue to steward them and cultivate them.
If I've got a huge list of potential donors, I will go through and I'll say, okay, who actually clicked on the video in ThankView, and then who actually watched the whole video in ThankView, and then I can kind of prioritize those people in our outreach.
So you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation how unique your alumni population is, and it sounds like even within the different segments, your the multi-channel engagement is unique for those segments. Can you talk a little bit about how the multi-channel approach has supported your engagement across your alumni base and how that's been received?
It's been we, going back to the event side using ThankView, or if they don't have an email, then we're using Pledgemine to send out the invitation for them. And we want to build that up to be able to do the QR code on the invitation so they could link back to the video if they wanted to. That has been super helpful to see and have more people engage, and even update some of their information because they realized they weren't getting the emails because we didn't have a good one. And I think for us too, it's the appeals. I know we do a lot of mailed appeals, but then the email appeals. And so Caroline's team is splitting, young alumni might get it versus the older alumni, and how that works with their team and who's opening it and wants real mail versus email.
And I think, when we sit down to kind of talk through how we're going to approach an appeal or who we're going to target, it's great to have, again, sometimes I'll go back and look at the open data to see, are they opening emails more? I mean, sometimes we're trying to do a better job of tracking the mailed pieces, but really trying to follow, and that's what we're kind of building now. I think it's something that I'm trying to work on. It's one of my goals this year is to really build the history of how somebody gives and when they give. Some of the dashboards in Signal have been very helpful in trying to figure that out, to really try to pinpoint what makes this person give, right? Is it the mailed? Is it the video? Is it a text message? Because we've been using texting through ThankView as well. And really trying to figure out and identify what donor or what segment responds better to what type of appeal works better in which lane. And one of the things, we don't have a full-fledged DXO program, but we did try, we've got one person who started last year. It's their first time trying it. And we use Signal to kind of track their stuff. And it's been really interesting to look at the numbers when they open things and when they respond. And the breakup email, everybody laughed at it, but that's, it works. It does work. And again, I think EverTrue, I really don't know that we would have been able to capture the data or look at it the way we're looking at it now without the EverTrue platform, and being able to look at those numbers and house everything right there. Because I'll tell you, before I hired this person, I was piloting like a very small, I think I had a portfolio of like 20 people. We were just piloting the cadence steps. This is before we had ThankView or Pledgemine. I can't even talk. Sorry. Before we had Signal, that's where we can cut. Thank you. So before we got Signal, I was just kind of piloting it to see if it would work. And we had an Excel spreadsheet, and it was, very cumbersome and manual. And this program would have never worked without the Signal platform. And being able to track those donors and going through that. And I think that's also where, major gift officers, a place we're looking to expand, which we wouldn't have been able to. We wanted to, couldn't have done it without Signal. Increasing those portfolio sizes, and really trying to get people through the system. Because while our donor base isn't that big, we still have not reached, enough people in our eyes. So when you talk about segmentation, I think, really looking at that stuff that we've been tracking, paying attention to how they're interacting with us, and being able to do all that through Signal has enabled us to really better pinpoint how we're going to communicate, when we're going to communicate, and what we're going to communicate, which is, exactly what we're going to do.
And having it as the overall picture, and I know it hasn't come out yet, but it's about to where anything that goes through Pledgemine will automatically be entered as an interaction on Signal. And with ThankView, I know it was already doing it, but that'll be a huge thing too, where when our research team and then our major gift officers are looking, they can see exactly when they got stuff and can see what it is. And that will be real important for them going forward.
Yeah, and for my team, it's really those interactions that we're tracking that start either with annual giving, the DXO, or with donor relations and stewardship. Us having that data in the system helps us. My team's probably just scratching the surface of how we can use the multi-channel approach. And that is I mean, you're changing the way folks that have been doing this a long time operate, and so they've got a lot of tools at their disposal that they're still learning. We haven't really started with some of the videos that we can send to donors. I'd like to do more of that where we're on campus showing them videos of either the impact their gift has had on a cadet or the space they've named, the classroom, the laboratory, whatever. We've not done much of that yet, and we need to. We've done some things with Revere's help with some of our major donors when they've been in the hospital or whatnot, sending them messages to get well, and that's been really uplifting to them. But I think there's so much more we can do. Even though we're in this for a few years now, it feels like we're still in the beginning because there's so much that we can do. It's just getting a full understanding of it and implementing it daily. Once you get into it, there's an aha moment of, didn't realize I could do that and couldn't do that before. So building out the trips and building out the cadences to get those meetings, you can really start planning your year well in advance so that you have all of this queued up when you come into the office and you know exactly what you have to do, who you need to reach out to. But you have to do it for it to be successful.
Thinking about some of like tracking that success, you've talked a lot about metrics in general, but I'm wondering if there are any other moments, whether that's like team feedback, donor responses. You've touched on this a little bit, but what were some of those moments that have happened where you were able to say this approach was really working and providing, a positive way forward for the organization?
We asked that all of our scholarship recipients handwrite thank you notes to their donors. But we have quite a few that study abroad. And so we're able to use ThankView to ask them to do videos. And so we can email those out. And those have been well received because they get to hear a little bit about what they're doing, where they are. We had one cadet start and say, I know I'm not in uniform, but here's why, and explain why. And that was a big hit with the donor. And we were excited to see that because he is one that can be particular about, his scholarship and where the cadets are and what they're doing. And so that opened his eyes to a lot of opportunities that were out there.
I feel like I've had to do some fibbing because they'll get a Pledgemine postcard that's like, I remember, happy anniversary or whatnot. I'm like, oh, and they'll say, oh, thanks for remembering. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Because that automation's great, but sometimes I'll be caught off guard. But yeah, I think the donor base, we have been just part of being in the military, right? We're kind of rigid. We've been a little rigid, and I feel like these different channels have allowed us to be a little bit more playful, especially watching some of our peer-to-peer communication, like with ThankView. We have a really robust volunteer program, and I have the class chairs kind of record a thank you video for Giving Day that they do ahead of time, and then on the day of, when somebody from their class makes a gift, they get this thank you video from their class chair, and they can be kind of playful sometimes, and they're like, okay, thank you, but you better get your friend, or I'm watching you, or whatever. They'll be fun, and I think that's added a little bit of more fun to some of the stuff that we send out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's allowed us to do that, and the reception has been great. I think sometimes we get a little nervous. Again, all having been here for so long, we get a little nervous to do something different, or have put a different vibe out there than we always have. But I think that's pushed us a little bit to do things like that. And I also think it's fun for to talk about this DXO. It's a 24 grad, and he's great, and he's so personable, and he's recorded these videos that he sends out. While he doesn't get a lot of responses sometimes, I think it was one of the football games, he was walking around and somebody kind of grabbed him and was like, you're the kid from the video. Even though I don't think that he'd heard back from that person. So it's been kind of fun. Like I said, to kind of do new things and experiment like that. And that automation's been very helpful to be able to reach more people than we would have otherwise.
I guess it was one of the stories that y'all talked about was he follows the cadence, he does the email, the video, phone calls, and then he sends the breakup letter because the guy never responds. Well, the donor was like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you breaking up with me?
Yeah, I
And he said,
liked
well,
these.
you didn't respond. So, but it led to a gift,
It was
and
it was a
and
large
it
one.
led to a major gift.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of funny to see the process work, and he follows it with the ThankView video or
Mhm.
the text. I mean, it's every step, and not getting a response. Many times we just leave it at that and move on to the next donor. But sending that breakup letter got the donor's attention, and then it started a relationship because it was, he was writing him off essentially.
Yeah. And it took those 7 steps from the different types of communication to get to
Yeah.
that point. Um,
And I think the donor appreciated the follow-up. Even though he wasn't responsive to the outreach, in the end, he was, I'm very sorry I didn't respond, busy, but I'm glad that you kept reaching out to me, and it leads to a major gift.
It feels full circle, whether this started because of encouragement and support from your board to do something different, evaluate new technology. And it's just hearing how that has helped transform the way you all work together and connect with and engage with your donors. It feels full circle. Would you have any uh, parting words or advice that you would give to other teams that are going through any kind of transformation?
Get in there, play around with it. If you look at my record in there, it says I'm a doctor, but I'm also a minister, and I'm also a general. And so it's getting in there and kind of seeing how things work. And when you start messing with the list and how you're pulling people, so put some dummy records in there that you can really get in and try out different opportunities. And if one doesn't work out well, then that's okay. You've tried it and you have record of it and you can move forward. But having the systems in place will help you do that and perfect what you're doing.
And I think knowing kind of because I have all these kind of aspirational, oh, I'd love to be able to do this or this or this, and just because the platform, isn't sold that way or doesn't say that you can, EverTrue's been great. I'll email and say, well, I really would like to get here, or here's my problem. How can we utilize the platform, or what can I do, or how can I set this search to get me to where I want to go? So I think thinking about it is in like not what can the platform do for me, but where am I trying to get to, and then how can I work with the platform to get to where I want to go. And I think thinking about it that way really kind of opens up more, uses, and you don't end up getting stuck in just doing kind of the basics of the platform. It really opens you up to using the whole thing.
Yeah, and I would say when you're getting into this, for us, it was looking at AI. And that's still the question we're trying to explain at board meetings, that this is so much more than AI. Yes, we understand there's got to be that we need to adapt and use AI as we move into the future. But this also exposed a lot of areas for improvement for us and places we can grow and try new things. And I'll say that we've worked with lots of vendors, and this really is a partnership with EverTrue. And they sold it that way, but you don't know until you get into it that you really do have someone there that you can send an email and get a response very timely. And then they take it to the next step. If we have any issues with data transfers or whatnot, the team at EverTrue has been really quick to help us identify solutions and get it right. And being open to suggestions and ideas moving forward. And that's not common. I don't think when you're working in technology, it's pretty much, this is our product, this is what you get. Hope you like it. And we've appreciated the ability to truly work together to identify, areas of improvement, areas of growth. And then the side-by-side approach for, yeah, we're going to come to your campus and train you. Oh, and we're not charging you for that. That's part of being one of our customers. That's unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we appreciate. Our CEO really appreciates it and spends the time with us and we can say, hey, can you talk to our team member about doing this? And, our um, relationship manager from EverTrue is like, absolutely. Let's figure out where we can improve in research or in our stewardship. So I do feel like you're walking hand in hand with someone because they understand our goals and how we're trying to become a $60 million annual operation and grow our endowment. So I appreciate that. And I know our executive team here does as well. We're getting better because of it.
A lot of what you've been saying of how you've been applying this into practice over the last several years is kind of what's the end goal and backing into things. And I can speak personally, that's something that Madeline has really taught me to do since working with her for the last several years. And I think that it's an approach that is exciting to hear that you are all taking because I know that many other organizations likely need to kind of um, echo that as well and kind of think about, we have all these next steps, but really what are we trying to achieve? And then how can we work together to get there and back into it? So that's just my takeaway too, just personally. But thank you again. And we're really excited to recognize you as an innovator. And I know a lot of folks will get some great stuff out of this conversation.